Testing, testing.
Yeah, lo que dieron,
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Rodriguez. I'm the chair for the Youth Activities Task Force here in the town of Miami Lakes. Today, we're going to be having a subcommittee for our Halloween event, and I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:40 p.m. For a roll call, we're just going to state our names into the microphone, starting with myself and then to my right, Brian Rodriguez.
Maurice Acosta.
Ariana Rejas.
Robin Amador.
Awesome. And we have Ernesto Soto from the town of Miami Lakes joining us as well. And we'll get right into this. Do we have any public comments? Seeing no public comments, we will move on to the adoption of minutes. I don't think we have the minutes from the last subcommittee, so we could just bring it either to the next subcommittee meeting or the next committee meeting to approve them.
Not necessary. Isn't necessary for the subcommittees,
Okay.
from my understanding.
Oh, that's fine. All right, we'll go to order of business, deferrals, additions, deletions. Is there anything that anyone wants to move, add, or delete from the agenda?
I wanted to go ahead and add, and I spoke to Brian earlier today. We do not, because this is a sponsored event, we do not necessarily need as a whole with the committee to approve of the date and the time. So we were going to move forward with the date that we have spoken about in the past, which is going to be Friday, October 29th.
Yeah.
For the time, for now, I filled it in from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Is this correct? Or do you want to move it?
So we'd have to approve that with the actual committee. And that's part of the agenda with the date. It's supposed to be date and time. So we could talk about that. Traditionally, it is 5 to 9 p.m. There is conditions to that where we can push it to 10 if the vendors do allow it, or if we want to push it. Usually everything else will start closing down, but I know FX is usually cool with working with us. If we're seeing that there's a long line or it's packed, then we'll kind of push it to 10 if we had to, or 9:30-ish. But I'm okay with having it 5 to 9, what we traditionally have it as, so we can start making those flyers and everything. And I want to know if anyone else has anything different or what times they'd rather do.
Just want to make a comment that the daylight savings time doesn't change to the following week. So it's not going to be as dark as early. if that makes any,
So does it get dark
Change.
later?
it's gonna get dark later, yeah. It's been like 7:30.
So it is a
7:20.
Friday, so we might want to move the time from 6 to 10. The only reason I say this is since it is a Friday, we can kind of work with it since it's a weekend.
Later.
Um, traditionally, we do not open the scare zone until nighttime. So let
It's
me
been-
see.
7:20 is what I've been seeing lately. That is the time where it starts to get dark. So by 7:35, around that time, it's like full nighttime, 7:40. And it probably won't change too much by then.
Yeah, so that's something that we should look into. I'd
For sure.
say 6 to, or even 5:30. We could start at 5:30 just so the little ones aren't out there so late. Usually we don't have candy the whole event, depending on how much we actually order, so we have to look into that too. But depending on how much candy we order, depends on how long the trick or treating goes on, as well as the whole event. Usually the trick or treating will end around halfway through the event, and then everything else is everyone just enjoying themselves at the event. Does anyone have any ideas of or thinking of how we want to do this event? Moritz?
Through the chair, if I may, I don't mind the time 6 to 10. I mean, you typically, I don't know how long the pumpkin decorating lasts, but if we do want to do that, if we start at 6 and it goes for, let's say, an hour and a half, it will be during daytime. And then the most of the activities, we can have the candy running also at the beginning, and then the haunted house can start right after.
Yeah, so basically that's how it works. And I just looked it up. It is at around 8 p.m. that the sun goes down. So around 7:45-ish, 8. How we would technically usually do it is we open up the whole event at 5:30, except for the scare zone area. That scare zone area, and I know Ariana, you've been there, so you've seen how we've done it in the past where the scare zone will open up at nighttime. So as soon as it gets dark enough, because it's more open atmosphere in the haunted house. So we can open up during the light, but I'd rather not. I'd rather have it, if we're gonna pay money to have it with lights and fog machines and nighttime stuff like that, I'd rather open it at night and have our event an hour later till 10 or 10, whatever works, 10, even 10:30. I've been there till midnight before. So it is a Friday, so keep that in mind. It's not a Saturday or a Sunday. So we can kind of work with it. I know it's harder if we did it on a weekday, which we've done this Halloween event on a weekday, but this is on a Friday night. So we do have a lot of leeway with this event when it comes to scheduling around the time.
Well, another thing is the later it starts, really, the more people can show up because they're back from work and
Or they're trick or treating around their neighborhood, then they come over. We do have a
And they
lot of
come over,
those.
yeah.
That we have a lot of people, and you've seen it in the past where a lot of people will show up and the event's over. So.
Yeah.
Because they're
Okay,
either
it's
out
still
with their
too-
friends or.
it's still Friday, the
It's
29th.
still Friday with, which we also talked about if we had, I think we voted on it, if we have a backup date, it would be either the 30th or the 31st, but we're aiming for that Friday. Usually this event is rain or shine. We have had this event canceled on the day of in the past, so depending on how it is, if it's a bad weather, then
That has happened.
a few times. Like once or twice. I know when Lynn Matos was the chair, she actually canceled it there. We've also had it in the rain, so, which isn't, it's not fun to do that in the rain, especially people. We don't want our volunteers to get sick and us getting sick and things like that, so. It would be better to cancel ahead of time if we have to, even, and we've seen it in the past where it might not even rain, but in case if we see that forecast where it's supposed to be thunderstorms or heavy rain, things like that, and that's something that we may have to take into consideration to change the date of the actual event.
Through the
Ariana?
chair, I remember that, I think it was 2 years ago. Oh, sorry. I think around 2 years ago, maybe 2018, 2019, one of those 2 years. It was a homecoming for one of the schools, and that was like a reason why like 70% of the volunteers didn't show up. Has anyone like looked into that?
So we have not, but I would rather not change it if it's because of a homecoming. We're on the weekend of Halloween, so this is a good weekend to do it. I wouldn't want to do it the week before. I don't think anyone's going to show up, or the weekend after. Year after Halloween, no one's going to show up. So I had said that in the committee meeting. If we do it the week before Halloween, the weekend before the weekend of Halloween, I don't think anyone's going to show up. Because one, it's a week out, and Halloween is technically on a weekend. So it'd be smart to take it for us to take advantage and make this event at least on the Saturday or on the Friday. But unfortunately, what we could do is when we have when we let our volunteers know, I think we should put that out there too. Make sure you don't have anything planned on this day. Because we've told the volunteers, you don't get your full hours. That's a big thing. They don't get their full hours if they don't show up to that day. And that one affects them the most with their hours. All right. And luckily we don't need as many since we did talk about doing the haunted house. And we'll talk about that now with Ernie. Do we have any updates with effects?
Nothing as of yet. I am keeping a close eye on my emails. I have reached out to them. They like I told you, they did give me an invoice for the two previous Halloween events that the town hosted, and I already told them that where we want to go, what direction we want to go with. So I'm just waiting on them. I will more than likely end up having a meeting with them either by the end of this week or early next.
Okay. Another thing is we are most likely going to have a emergency committee meeting once we start approving things, because we do have to bring it all up to the committee. So tonight, we're going to try to make it quick, but we do need to decide. I think tonight we should decide the time of the event, the number of volunteers, and the overall plan for the event. So we could present that to the committee. Once we send them the overall plan or present that, I think we could just start buying everything. I don't know if we have to vote on every single item we purchase. So I think we should start talking about that. So what we can do is going back to the time. So we already decided as a committee that it's going to be the 29th. So that is set in stone. The time. Do we want to do 5 p.m. or 6 or 5:30 to 10? Or 5:30 to 10:30, Ariana?
Well, I think that we should probably do it like a little bit later so that we have some time for the kids to play around and do everything. And then open up the scare zone. So like a lot of the teenagers, they're not going to be waiting around for like too long until the scare zone opens. So probably later on.
Yeah, I'm okay with starting it at 6:30.
Yeah,
till
6:30
10:30,
works.
11 o'clock. Unfortunately, our volunteers are coming for hours.
Yeah.
So they're coming to get community service hours. If they leave early, they lose hours. We're gonna have to make that very clear to committee members or to volunteers. I'm okay with, I don't know if I don't think we have to talk to the town about that either, because we've had events that
About what?
end that late anyway
Yeah.
with movies at the park. To have it from 6 p.m. to 11
That's going to be pushing it.
or to
I can
10:30.
I can definitely bring it to light. I don't know if they will be willing to push it that late. I do understand the because of the daylight savings time, that nightfall will be a little later in the day. But we also have to take into consideration that when the event is over, you have to do the breakdown.
Yeah.
And that we don't want to go into midnight.
Well, we wouldn't go back into midnight if we have the cooperation of all the volunteers. In previous years, we did not, and you've been there for that. And I'm sure, Ernie, you've been there for that as well with us when you were a committee member where the volunteers did not want to help at the end. That's just hurting them. Unfortunately, they don't want to help out. We're there longer. At one year, it was just myself and Tony Fernandez picking up the whole event. All the volunteers sat around because they didn't want to do anything. So that's one thing that we could talk about too.
I mean, yeah, we could definitely talk about it in the next committee meeting. However, I would like to push this event to go no later than 10 o'clock. It's just for the safety of the volunteers that are going to be present, for the safety of yourselves. It is night. It is very dark at that park. There will be some lighting, and we will have some kind of clarity with that. But in truth, it'll probably be a push. And in all honesty, I don't think they will approve it. Either way, we can discuss it. I can bring it to, like I said, bring it to light and see, see what road we can go down.
Yeah, what we could do as well is if we want to plan another subcommittee for next week, we can try.
Actually, are we still in the additions and the deletions and the?
No.
No, we're not.
We moved on.
Okay, I apologize. I was on the phone. One of the things that I would like for us to do is our very next meeting is going to be on the 17th.
Yeah, so what I was gonna say is we might have to have 2 meetings next week
Mhm.
to possibly have a subcommittee and then a committee meeting right after. Back to back.
I would probably switch it though.
I would not. Because if I'd rather have we could have as many subcommittee meetings as we want, right? I'd rather have a subcommittee before, even if it's for 30 minutes. If we have anything else that we want to add last minute and then approve it with the committee right away.
Okay.
So if you can look into that for me, I don't know what time the meetings, I get out of work at 5:30.
I will make sure to look into it tomorrow for both items.
Yeah,
for
if they
the
could have it on the
subcommittee
same day.
and
then-
the emergency committee meeting.
Yeah,
for
if they
us.
could have it on the same day, that would be awesome.
I believe that is possible.
Okay,
I will look into it.
okay. Are you guys good with that, Mertz?
Through the chair, thank you. I think that's perfectly fine. I just want to say, if possible, I do have, let's see, I do have next Tuesday at night, I do have an event. So if that's avoidable, then that would be great. If not, that's obviously completely understandable. Also, I want to talk about the flyer. Is it a way we can include in the flyer that the haunted house will not open until
We do.
we do? Great.
Every year it does say it on there that the haunted house is not open until a certain time. And that flyer won't come out until like 1 or 2 weeks into October. We don't want to do it too early because then people, they get excited and then they forget. So we don't want to do the flyer too early, but we can definitely put that on there once we decide the times. And the reason I wanted to do a committee meeting before if we do have an emergency committee meeting, a subcommittee meeting before the emergency meeting, is so Ernie could go back and ask what times we're allowed to do. We could decide there as a subcommittee, or if we want to change anything, they could give us our timeframes, right? Of what we can and can't do, and then decide there, then bring it to the committee. I think that's a good idea, or I think we should move with that. You
Through the chair, do we have like a potential date for the meeting yet or no?
That it all depends on the town.
Thank you.
Usually they try to plan our meetings on Tuesdays. So if you can't make it, you can't make it, but you'll be informed of what's going on.
I will keep a note of that, Moritz, and I'll look into it.
Awesome. All right.
Through
So I
the
think,
chair,
go ahead.
when is the next actual meeting?
The 17th of October. The next scheduled meeting.
Scheduled of, I'm sorry, but 17 of October?
That's why we may need to have an emergency meeting before this event.
I'm sorry, I have it here as a Sunday. It's gonna be on a Sunday?
October 17th is not on a Sunday. Or is it? Or am I off? Let me see.
Maybe the 19th? Is a Tuesday?
Okay, yeah, it would be the 19th. So even closer, there you go. Yeah, it would be the 19th is the regular.
The regular meeting at 7?
Yeah. So
Thank
that's
you.
why we would have to have a meeting before then with the committee, because that's cutting it a little bit too close. And that's a good gap, so we could have also subcommittee meetings between then. Between the between that meeting before, and then if we have anything else to add on, we could add it on. Unless we absolutely need to have an emergency meeting, which we have had happen before. And it wasn't last year, it was a year before, where we had an emergency committee meeting every single week in the month of October. So just keep that in mind. Words?
Through the chair, the calendar states that our next meeting is October the 20th, which is a Wednesday.
Oh, we do meet Wednesdays. Sorry, I'm lost. Yes, so it would be the Wednesday. Thank you, Mertz.
Of course. And when it comes to the number of volunteers, you had stated that because the subcommittee is suggesting a haunted house, I think, that maybe it will be less volunteers than when it is
So-
the scare zone.
So yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about today was gathering the number of volunteers that we want for this event. So we need to figure out, so we have the haunted house. The the trick or treat area. I'm sorry, I'm blanking out.
Pumpkin
The
decorating.
Thank you, the pumpkin decorating.
The
Uh,
costume contest.
Yes, the costume contest. So with the costume contest, they don't only just do the costume contest. They're also like the hype squad for the dance parties and little things like that. So I'll just call it the stage crew. I'm trying to see what else we have that we would need more volunteers for. So we have the haunted house, the pumpkin decorating, the costume contest, the trick or treating area.
Through the chair, does all that happen at the same time?
So basically how we've done it in the past, each committee member or the ones that want to do it, usually it's the subcommittee members that are here, will pick a area of the event and kind of run that area with the volunteers. So they'll take lead in that area.
At that point, I think yourself, Ariana, Flavia, any one of those names that I just mentioned should maybe break them off into stations, and they choose
Yeah.
a certain amount of volunteers.
So the good thing about you guys being here, you get first pick. As chair, I won't pick a certain area because I'm usually running around as chair. Unless I absolutely need to pick an area. But usually the chair is all over the place. But is there anything that you guys are looking at that you would like to take on? I know Ariana, you've done the pumpkin decorating in the past. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think I did it once. I'm usually with registration though, like if.
Well,
we're
registration is
meeting-
part of the pumpkins.
Oh, right.
And registration is only for the pumpkins, so.
So then, yeah, I could do that. But I did find out like literally today from my chemistry professor that we're gonna have a test on the 29th. It's from 5 to 6:30. So it's very upsetting.
If you could come to, well, you need a study, so. Come whenever you can.
Yeah, I'm trying to plan like for the day of, like in the morning
What
or
a
whenever.
horrible day to have an exam. On Friday at night.
Yeah, it's UM kind of messed me up on that.
Go protest. I'm kidding. But yeah, we'll work around whatever we have to do. I know the committee, everyone has their thing. So whatever we have to do, we can try to work around it. We have other committee members that we're expecting to be there as well. Because when you're on a committee, you're expected to be at events. So hopefully we could have all of our committee there, if anything.
Yeah.
Moritz, is there anything you're thinking about?
I really don't mind any station. Whatever is needed, I'll be there.
Okay. So I don't think we need to know exactly what station we're in right now, but, and you're probably going to be with the police department and at the haunted house most likely, so. That's where they usually post. you
From what I
guys.
remember from before, yeah.
Okay.
So we have, we try to post on the opposite ends of the park in twos.
Okay,
So I was trying to think, I think it was 6 or 7. that we've
Yeah, it's
had,
like-
6 or 7 every year.
I know
now.
you guys put like 2 in front of the haunted house and then in different areas
Right.
or walking around. them.
Yeah, just, break everything down. So
Mhm.
when people are walking around, they say, "Oh, well, look, they're here,
Awesome.
and they're
And we
also
should have
here."
police that night.
They're also
coming in,
here.
So.
And
I
the
think
cars also on with the lights on in the corners.
if we need to put cars in the park, we can, Tommy,
Yeah, absolutely.
which we've done.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah, the
think-
safety part, we got it because we've been
Yes.
doing it for so long. So
Yeah, safety is number one at this event. That's one thing that you just said that brought a reminder, like, and I've said this and I will keep saying it, it's a nighttime event. We've had things happen in the past that we need to keep an eye out, and all hands are on deck for this event.
one thing that I have noticed over the years, I mean, I know before it was not at the park, it was like different areas,
Yeah, the
lit
Blockbuster,
areas, a
Main Street.
Blockbuster, Main Street. But with the park, even though we want the night, which is great, right? It's a night event and a Halloween event. We have noticed in the past that, like in the middle of the field, there's certain places where it's so dark that it is a safety concern, and people have
So-
said it before.
So Ernie, maybe we need to look into getting another light tower instead of one.
It's a big park.
Well,
It's a big
usually the areas that need to be lit up the most are the middle.
Right, so I agree. Another light.
Because
would
we
be
have the
great.
lights around the path that give some type of light in the pavilions and that stuff, but maybe have, or we could even have three, two in the center and one by the food trucks. If we're
Another
gonna do
thing
food
is,
trucks.
so the event is over, right? It's ending, it's done. Okay, everyone, thank you for coming out. Remember, it's been super packed at the end. One big thing is, so if the lights are there and let's say they're off or they're at a low capacity at that time, all the lights should be on. There should be a lot of visibility.
Yeah, so usually we don't turn off the lights at the end.
Mhm.
The only time we would turn off the lights is when we're done. And we did everything we had to do. Unfortunately, we can't kick people out of the park. So we,
Yeah, but what I mean is, even if, let's say you get three lights and then two are perfect, but then you have that third standby, then that would be the time to turn that on and say, okay, everything is nice and lit.
yeah, we could have a third light for a
back.
backup light for the end.
Because it's very.
It
dark,
does get dark, yes.
Very dark.
So if we could look into that, if we have the funding too, so we have to see. But I do agree with you. It does get extremely dark. Luckily, with the haunted house, we're using mainly one half of the park instead of the whole park. So it kind of helps a little bit more people. There's not many people walking on one side of the park. They all stay in that one general area. So that helps out a little bit too when lighting up stuff. We don't have to light up so much stuff. We just light up the areas where we know our events taking place. Unfortunately, we can't control what other people do. It's a public park.
Just one thing that I was looking at the other day, also with the whole COVID thing and any type of social distancing, if people need to be separated, the town has a million cones at that park. I don't know if that's something that could be used if necessary.
So that's what we need to check with the town to see what their COVID-19 precautions are at this time and what their restrictions are. Because right now, if I'm correct, it's masks are recommended. And I don't think there's any social distancing in place right now.
I'll go ahead and look into it. I don't want to speak and say something that may not be correct, so that's fine. No worries. I can go ahead and look into that as well.
Okay. So I think we're good there and we could talk about that more later on. But what I would like to do tonight is 100% get the number of volunteers that we need. And with those volunteers, we also get some extras just in case. Right. So for the haunted house, I'd say at least 10, just so they could swap out and they're not there dying inside of the tent of heat because it does get very hot. And they could have little breaks and things like that. So at least 10 for the haunted house area. I know I said there's 5 or 4 to 5 inside of it, but I'd rather have some extras. So we could have someone at the entrance, letting people in and out, or things like that, guiding people through it if they need guidance through it. So I'd rather have 10 for that area or even more. I don't know what you guys think for the haunted house from your experience, Ariana.
Question, would we have the same type of layout that we had for like inside this haunted house?
It wouldn't be, it all depends on what FX is gonna do. They might change the layout, but it's the same idea.
It's
Okay.
going to be similar. as to what Brian just mentioned right now, they may add or remove some of the effects, but it should stay the same in terms of the
Yeah,
actual
should be the same
walkthrough.
layout. They're doing it in the same area, so. Because it has to be ADA accessible, so. And that's the only area that we can do it that's ADA accessible, unless we want to do it at the basketball courts, which is on the other side, which means more lights. Yeah, so I think we're good in that sense there for the haunted house. So just 10, and if we have to add, we could always add. I think we have to take it up to the committee first before we even get volunteers.
Would you maybe suggest to come up with a number now and then just go ahead and bring it back to the?
That's what we're doing, yeah.
Okay. What are we looking at in total?
So right now we're going through each one to see what areas we need the most. So for the trick or treat zone, it's usually about 10 tents. Do we want to stay with 10 or do we want more tents?
Through the chair, my opinion is that we should do whatever the budget permits. Is there a ballpark number for the light FF? The light FF?
Well, we have the same budget as last year. So if we're going off of last year, it was 10 tents.
10 cents. Okay, I think that sounds good. So that means 10 different candy stations?
Yeah.
And the kids can go through each one of them?
Yeah.
Great.
Yep. So do we want to do 4 or 5 per 10? How many do we want to do? Usually it's about 4. Well, do we want to keep it at 4 volunteers per 10 or put it at 5?
Through the chair, this is one committee member for all 10 tents?
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay,
Usually, well, last time we did it was 2.
Two
We could have 2 committee members there that are working with those volunteers, or even 3. It all depends how many committee members show up.
right, okay.
It would also depend on the on what we're looking to do, and we're looking to what guidelines we're looking to follow with social distancing.
But yeah,
That's a
usually
10 by 10 pop-up tent. We don't want too many people.
Mhm.
Just a suggestion.
Yeah, usually what these volunteers do is we're usually okay because especially with right now, most of them go to school together. And they're together all the time. So I don't see an issue having 4 per 10. So I'd say 40 for that area. When it comes to committee members, we don't really need too many committee members in that area because remember, there's gonna be committee members everywhere. We're all in one area, right? Yes, you're running this area, but I've been in the scare zone area and I'm helping the trick or treat zone too. So we're all there working together. You're assigned to an area, but if you're needed at another area, we work around it and we help each other. That's what we're there for, right? So are we okay with 40 for the trick or treat area? I'd say 4 per tent. It makes it easier for them to set up as well. And they don't have to they could take turns sitting down or standing up or doing whatever they want. Is that okay? And we want to give volunteer or students the opportunity to volunteer. I know we haven't had volunteering for over or almost 2 years now because of COVID. So it helps out a lot, or over a year at least, with a group of volunteers. So for pumpkin decorating, I'd say at least 10 as well. And then for the stage area, I'd say 5. That's how we had it in the past, yes.
Through the chair, so the stage area, they're not there the whole time, correct?
Yes, they are.
So the stage is the costume contest, the whole?
No, there's dance parties.
Oh,
They're like the hype people in the event.
okay,
They get everyone excited, dancing, the little kids dancing, things like that. There's only one costume contest, but the kids are able to still have fun, dance, things like that. We want volunteers out there. They dress up and they just have fun with the kids, things like that.
right, so I don't know if you guys want to do 40, 10, 10, 5, and then 10 like extras, because I know we did have for the end of summer bash, like 50 volunteers sign up, and like 15
So
actually
we're at
went.
65 right now.
65.
I'd say traditionally, I think we've set it to 75, so we could ask for 10 extras. I don't think we know there's people that are gonna drop out. And if we have to ask for more, we can. If we absolutely necessarily need to. If someone shows up on the first day of the first meeting for the volunteers and say, oh, I can't show up anymore, then we could always replace them. I'd say 75. just in case, just to be safe. We also need to check how many hours we're giving out. I know they've changed it every year. One year was 90, then it was 75, then it was back to 90, then 75, then to 30. So we need to, can we check with, I think we've traditionally given them 75 community service hours since they're showing up more than one day. It's not,
If you could elaborate, because
they're not doing 75 community service hours, but we're giving them, I don't know how it works. You would have to talk to Christina how they do the hours.
So each volunteer
Yes.
gets that much?
I don't know what the number is. I know the committee has decided in the past how many hours. At one point, they told us we were giving too many hours. So
Okay,
you
I'll
wanna
look
talk
into
to-
that.
yeah, if you could look into that to see how many community service hours we're able to give out. Traditionally, it's around 75 hours for Halloween. Right?
Through the chair, if there's one thing about the volunteers that I would like to see implemented for this event is to make sure we have the forms filled out beforehand, because for the end of summer bash, it was a little complicated. At the end, we had to get everybody's
We do.
name, then they had to come back.
So for this event, since there's so many volunteers, we do it ahead of time. We have all their papers signed ahead of time. And Ernie, I could sign those with you since I am an adult. I was always told I couldn't because I was a student, even last year, and I wasn't. But I could also sign those, whoever's over the age of 18 and a committee member can sign those papers. Usually they keep it to the chair because they could easily find the chair on the town stuff or their information. But I could help you sign those if we want beforehand. Because I believe we don't give them their hours per meeting. We give them their hours at the end, on the day of the event, at the end of the event, once everything's been picked up.
We need to, simply because if we provide them with certain amount of hours,
They don't come back.
they won't come back. So we need to make sure that they're there till the very
Yeah.
end. That's when we hand them in their
I
paper.
know the hours differ on how many volunteer meetings we have, which is the next thing I was gonna bring up. So we need to figure out how many volunteer meetings we're going to have with these volunteers. And this can start as soon as we confirm it with our committee. So I wouldn't say next week, but maybe I won't be here the week after, but you guys can still have a meeting with the volunteers without me. I won't be there. I could even join on the phone if you guys want to and talk to them, because usually the chair will talk to the volunteers, give them a little history. I won't be there. If we want to do the first one next week, we can. We could get this rolling fast. The thing is, I don't think we need to approve the volunteer numbers with the committee. We've never done that with the committee. If you could look into that for me and let me know, Ernie, then we could schedule that first meeting. And I'll go over this now, if we are able to do this committee meeting with volunteers next week, the thing is, we need to go through that inventory first.
I did speak to Christina with regards to that, and she mentioned that we can have an inventory check and leave it at that, an inventory check with the volunteers. At that point, we
Yeah,
can
we
have
could do
the
that too.
committee
Yeah.
show up and assist in any way.
So we could do that too. We could have an inventory check with the volunteers. I'd say we could try to go for next week. Luckily, it's not here. It's at
Mary Collins.
Mary Collins. So depending on the schedules at Mary Collins, usually later in the afternoon, it's usually open. Do you know what days would be open, Ernie, for a volunteer meeting? Usually it's at around 5:30-ish, 6 o'clock.
That's fine. I have no issues with
Any
that. What I will do by the end of this week, I will go ahead and begin to post it on Eventbrite just to kind of get the numbers going. And from those numbers, we can go ahead and begin the inventory.
Okay, but would you guys be okay with doing that first meeting on next week? It would be after our regular committee meetings. Hopefully it's either on a Tuesday or Wednesday. And then if we wanted to do the volunteer meeting, we could have it on Thursday. I would not do it Friday. Words?
Through the chair, quick question. Why is it that the volunteer meeting why do they need to go to the inventory?
To know what we have.
Us.
No, the volunteers are there. The reason we do this is Basically, so which we'll do today too, we have to come up with all the themes for the tents. Once we do that, and I could go over what themes we had, because we may have to do some of the same themes, but we could change it up, right? Because we already have stuff for that theme. Basically, what we bring in the volunteers for is the volunteers help us separate everything in that inventory. Once we separate everything, then we could start assigning it, hey, group one, right? Tent one, tent two, tent up to tent 10. And then when we store it, we mark it and say this is tent one, tent two, tent three to tent 10, right? And it makes it easier as we go. And usually we have only 2 meetings. Well, I'd say have 3 meetings. I don't know if we're doing it too early to have this first meeting next week. We could even have it the first week of October. Or we could do 3 weeks consecutive up to the event. I think that might be the best thing to do, actually. Thinking about it now. Because you don't want to give them too much time in between, then they forget about stuff. If we could look into that, Ernie, having 3 weeks consecutive for the volunteer meetings. Last year or the year before, we did 2. I'd rather have 3 to be safe. It may end earlier, but the reason I'd rather have 3 is because if anything changes, because how it used to be is we had a meeting, we gave them a week off, then they came the next week to the next meeting. Then at the next meeting was the meeting before the event, we didn't have time to buy stuff. You understand now? So I'd rather have 3 set meetings.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Next Tuesday, there's a bunch of meetings in here already, just so you know. If one of those is gonna be,
No, for
Here.
volunteer meeting, it's not here.
okay,
For our meeting, yes, but
yeah.
if
yeah,
it's
next
Wednesday, we could
Tuesdays.
do Wednesday, whatever works for Ernie, Wednesday or Thursday, but let's plan on would we want with the volunteer meeting, we have free reign of that because it's at Mary Collins. We don't have to schedule it here in this room. Do we know what dates we want to start this? So it would be the first 3 week or the last 3 weeks before the event. I'd have one the day before the event, which is the 28th on a Thursday. Do we want to just do all Thursdays
Through the chair,
or
I
2 days
think,
before? Go
look-
ahead.
looking through like the past times that we've done it, I think last year we had us like the day of Saturday, like the event, then we had the Tuesday and then the Thursday. So I think I mentioned 2 subcommittee meetings ago that we could possibly do it like the 14th, which is a Thursday, the 19th, which is a Tuesday, and then the 28th, which is a Thursday, and then the 30th or the 29th, the Friday of the event. So if we wanted to do 3 meetings.
We could also do it the 15th, 22nd and 29th. Or I'm sorry, the 14th, 21st and 28th.
Yeah, so whichever one would work best.
What do you think, Ernie? That work? That gives us enough time and wiggle room. We have a week in between to purchase stuff, because if we do, let's say the 14th and the 18th, you have a 3 or 4 day window to buy everything. At least we'll give Ernie the courtesy to have a little bit of time to order stuff and let stuff come in.
Through the chair, on that note, did the committee receive more money this year than other years?
No.
Or is it the same?
We're actually receiving less than what we usually get.
Because,
This event used to get 25,000.
so like
Then
the
we got
tents,
20,000. Now we're getting 15.
so like the tents, that's something that is purchased, or I'm sorry, rented for the day?
Yes.
Okay, I would,
Yeah, Officer Amador, when in reference to the this event, that's why we weigh heavily on FX Pros, because they pretty much come in and take care of it all.
Yeah.
From the
sound,
haunted house, the
audio,
sound,
The lighting.
the stage, all
They even
that.
do lighting for us.
yeah, I was just saying because, for instance, if in the past we had 10 tents and you're looking at supplying 10 tents with the volunteers and, all the numbers. But now this year, because of all the high increases of everything, FX is charging more, everybody's charging more. Now you're going, wow, before we had enough for 10 tents, now we have only for 6.
So that goes into the next thing. Is sponsorships. We need to reach out to our previous sponsors. I've tried to reach out to Miami Lakes Auto Mall. I'm not getting any luck. If you can try, Ernie. That'd be awesome. They sponsored this event before. So if we could get Miami Lakes Auto Mall or even Toyota, headquarter Toyota has been sponsoring us a lot lately. I don't know if they've done it with cars, but we need, for this one, we don't need cars. We need monetary sponsorships.
I know that Dr. Sedano did express interest
Yes,
in
he
doing
already
so.
reached out to me, actually.
And I'm going to, as a matter of fact, by the end of this week, either tomorrow or the following, I will reach out to Christina Christoph and see, because I know that in the past she has provided sponsorship for this event. So I'll look into that as well. If there is anyone that you know,
Even small businesses, anyone that
small
wants to,
businesses,
anyone that wants to sponsor. So speaking of sponsors, they can't just sponsor $100. There are prices for everything.
7 minutes till the end
Yeah,
of this.
that's fine. And we'll hurry up here. And for the volunteer meeting, since we're not having them just yet, we can decide that at the next committee meeting since we're planning to have one next week. We're good there?
Through
Okay,
the chair,
go ahead.
do you have that in a email format? Reference the sponsorships?
Well, once we have the
packets?
Halloween sponsorship package, can you forward it to all the committee members?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we'll do that at the next meeting. We'll also do we could also do the themes at the next meeting for the volunteers. We don't have to have that today, but we do need to get this out ASAP. If you take a look through this isn't our sponsorship package, but it's just an example. This is for the Miami Lakes Jingle Bell Jog. We could kind of have it as the same type of format. And you could see there's other ones that we had in the past, so we could have it as the same format too, because this one's not by Miami Lakes, I'm pretty sure. This is from a non-for-profit that I think, or it doesn't matter though. But typically for this event, there's 3 levels of sponsors, or it could even be, and it all depends on price. So you have bronze, silver, and gold sponsorships. Typically for this event, bronze is $500, silver is $1,000, and gold, which is the title sponsor, is $5,000. We could always lower that though. If we wanted to, we can make it $2,500. I'd say I'd rather keep bronze 500 and silver 1,000, and then make the title, if we wanted to make it 2,500. I'd say that might be a better shot at this point to make it 2,500, unless someone wants to, or should we go for 5,000? That's something that we have to decide tonight. Right?
An event can only have one title sponsor, correct?
Yes.
So one question, why isn't there like an option where whoever wants to pay the most gets title?
We don't do that. You want title, you pay the title sponsorship.
So if I get there first, I
It's
get
not
it.
fair, because if you pay $1,001, you automatically get title sponsor. Is that fair? And someone else paid $1,000?
So in other words,
That's why we
there's,
set the sponsorship numbers.
so there's sometimes an event without a title sponsor.
There's multiple. Most
Okay.
of our events don't have title sponsors.
Okay, I understand.
Most of our events don't have title sponsors. So the only ones that I could tell you, Halloween has not had a title sponsor in a while. The only one I know, the Spring Fling had a title sponsor last year. That one usually has title sponsors, but that's the thing. We have to set these numbers. So if they want that title sponsorship, they have to remember this is a big event, right? With a few thousand people that show up, it's promoting their business. If they really want it, they will pay that number. So that's something when we only have 4 minutes. So we have to decide what we want these numbers to be so we can get that sponsorship.
Through the
package
chair,
going.
to that point, I would say lower it. Just because if it's been years
say go for
before and it
25.
hasn't been met, then,
Or do
try
we
to
want to
bring it
do,
lower.
do you
so
want
it
to
can
just
be met.
round it to 3,000 for the title? 3,000 for title or gold? Silver would be 1,000 and then gold will be 500. I think it's just doubling. Every layer is doubling. If you think about it, or tripling, I guess. Not really, but. Are you guys good with that, Moritz?
I think that's fine. So it's 500, 1,000 and
3,000.
3,000.
To the chair, and the ones that aren't the title,
So-
there are multiple, no? For the other
So
ones?
each tier gets a different thing, right? So the title obviously gets the naming rights. We name the event, they get their name on the event, right? So
Well, if you,
Let's say Miami Lakes Auto Mall sponsors it. Miami Lakes Auto Mall, Nightmare on Mount Rose, brought to you by the Town of Miami Lakes Youth Activities Task Force.
if you look at the paper that I given the copy, it pretty much tells you the benefits if you choose to be the title sponsor.
Yeah, you can see the check marks here.
Yeah, and then over to the left of the check marks, it tells you what it is that you're going to be getting for becoming the title sponsor.
Yeah, typically for sponsors that sponsor for bronze do not get tents. We typically give a tent to those that sponsor silver or up or above. Also, the gold sponsor or a title sponsor also gets a customized banner that the committee pays for with their sponsorship dollars, which has the name of the event with their name on it as well and their logo, right? They also get perks of being on the flyers and all promotional items. I think even the bronze sponsor gets it, but they're at the bottom, small. The title sponsor, depending on what tier you get, is the bigger your logo is on our flyer. So that's different things. And we already have a sponsorship package, so we can just go off of what we have. But it's different things like that. The more you have or the more you give, the more you get out of it, right?
Like I said, this was just a sample. Wanted you guys to take a look at it. I know Officer Amador was not aware of it. Maritza was not aware of this. Brian, I know you are. Ariana, I know you are because you guys have done this in the past. But this is basically just a sample, so you can go off of and have a better understanding of it.
Yeah, if we don't have the title or we don't have the sponsorship package out today or this week, I think it's okay if we wait till next week. But get this idea in your head of what you guys think you want. If you have, make a list on what each tier should get, and we could talk about it as a committee and come up with different things and make that final sponsorship package at least before October starts.
So it's one title, but the rest
Yeah.
multiple.
Yeah, so we could have as many silver sponsors or as many gold sponsors as we get, whoever wants to sponsor. But it's usually typically it's only one title sponsor because their name does get
Yeah.
put on the event. So I think we're good in that aspect though. But is there anything else anyone wants to add at this time regarding the Halloween event before we end this meeting? And I think we'll go over once Ernie has the date and the time for next week, he'll send that out to you guys, and we'll go from there.
Just want to ask a quick question. How do you guys identify the volunteers at the event?
So we've done this in the past where we usually give them wristbands. And that's how we know who our volunteers are. If we're giving out wristbands for pumpkins, which I don't think we're gonna do, we could give out tickets. But usually we get a very bright wristband, a bright color, and each volunteer does get a wristband, and that's how we can tell who our volunteers are. And what we could do too is, one more thing before we finish off here. For volunteers, and I forgot to bring it up earlier, on the day of the event, they check in 3 times. Not once or twice, they check in 3 times. One at the beginning, one at a random time, so we know they didn't leave, and one at the end. And that's where they get their hours. Yes.
Quickly through the chair. So do we have to wait or can Mr. Soto start advertising this on Eventbrite? Or do we have to wait until the committee meeting? You can. And then
Yeah.
great. And then
The thing is, the flyer won't be on there.
And the times won't be the exact times.
But he could put it on there as tentative for the time, and then at least the volunteers could start. And once you get that, once it's up on Eventbrite, so the volunteers can sign up, can you send that to the committee as well, so we can get that out there to the volunteers? I guess I have a whole long list of volunteers that I could just send it to.
also quickly through the chair, in regards to the meetings we do with the volunteers, I know the 14th, 21st, and 28th was suggested. Personally, I think it's best to replace that with the 14th, the 20th, and the 28th, because the 20th, we have our meeting here, and we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We can have 2 at Mary Collins and 1 here. So
No, we don't meet here with the volunteers.
we're not allowed to?
No, there's no reason to meet here with volunteers. We can't bring everything from Mary Collins here.
Okay, understood, thank you.
All right. Going off that, and we could confirm that at the next meeting for the dates and things like that and the times. Is there any more questions before we move on? All right, seeing none, we are good there. Do we have any announcements? Seeing no announcements, I will adjourn this meeting at 7:32 PM. Thank you, guys.
Test.
Testing, testing. Testing. All right, we're ready to go when you guys are.
Okay, so 7:41, and we're ready to call to order. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll call. Manny Vagina. Barbara Pais. Jorge Llerena. Marcos Gutierrez.
Present.
William Garcia.
Present.
Homero Cruz present. So we do have a quorum. We got 6 members. Order of business, deferrals, additions, deletions. Do we have something that we deferred last time? I don't recall. Do you guys have anything? So moving to the next item, public comments. Bill, anything you want to say? Now is the time. You got 3 minutes. Bill is one of the 4 people that I gave to Gina and company. So we're waiting for them to say, okay, so they can come in and serve. It's him and 3 other more names. So that will make it, we got 8, 4, that's 12. So we're missing 2 more to make it to 14. So if you guys know anybody, east, west, south, north.
And there's also some updates that we'll have. We actually had a liaison meeting earlier this morning. So there's some updates on your guys' last request as far as altering the committee and making it something more manageable rather than those 14, yes, east, no, west. So we'll have some insight on that, but definitely welcome. I know we met before, so pleasure to have you here again. And I don't know if you wanted to provide, or is she also on the list of? Now that's why you have to be here. That makes sense. Okay, so with that, I don't think unless you wanted to provide any public comment. No?
No, all business.
I've been a property owner since the early 90s, and I've lived here since about 2001. And so I'm familiar with the neighborhoods, what we called before the special tax and district, and how it was formulated, and the west coming on board first and the east. So I've been party to some of the discussions and the processes along the way. So I think I could contribute.
State your name and address just for the record.
And it's William Barimo. The address is 8570 Northwest 166 Terrace, Miami Lakes.
Bill serves on the ARB for the Royal Oaks HOA. He's been there for a while.
I have a
Perfect.
registered architect also.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, appreciate you being here, Bill.
So all business. So under all business, we got George, you want to go ahead and make a motion for approval of last month minutes?
If everybody's read the minutes,
Yeah,
okay, I make a motion to approve.
I'll go ahead and second that motion. Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. So we're gonna go to item B, update on the bidding for the guardhouses. We still don't have anything because we're still waiting. They never gave, I mean, they gave a number, but we didn't have a scope of work. So we're gonna have to see if we're gonna end up developing a scope of work, or we're gonna go and try to fix the items with the handymans inside the town and not put it out for bids. Prices came out too high. So we don't really want to go there and spend that amount of money like that.
Correct. So since the last meeting, we've been working with procurement. We were able to successfully close that bid with no awardal. So next, what we have to do is provide a more detailed scope of the itemized things that we would like the prices for. That way we can create a plan of attack for which items, are going to be done at this time and that time, et cetera. Because just like Homero just mentioned, the way we received it on the bid was just like a large lump sum. So we don't know exactly the items and how much each thing will cost.
Right. What we want to do is itemize the scope of work by sections. So, and at the end of the day, we know what number we have for each section. And like that, we can review the numbers and say, okay, we're going to go with this, or we can do this later
And we can
and work with the
prioritize.
budget that we have. So, any questions on that? Not much to do.
No.
SFM contract. Okay. SFM contract, I was reached by Christina and Jeremy.
That's, oh, I'm sorry, it's like super intense. I had a lot of coffee today. Please forgive me.
You want to touch bases on that before we go to?
That's going to be in the new business. That
Okay,
is
right.
just if there's anything left over that the committee wanted to discuss from the last meeting, because it was new business last meeting. That's when we had the president of SFM, is he the president?
Yeah.
Christian, who
Christian.
came, answered questions, and they followed up. I sent the email with the information that they do now have posted in the different guardhouses. So if there's anything else that anybody wanted to discuss on that, we can. And then if there's nothing else, I'll make sure it's removed for the next meeting.
I think we got them here and we told them how we feel about it and what we're expecting from them. Have you guys noticed any improvement or?
I've seen new faces. I've seen some that are very engaged. They really go out of their way. I've seen some new faces that still
Little bit lost.
yeah, they're a little bit lost. Let's just say it that way. They don't take the tags. I noticed one last week sometime, a younger gentleman that was new. So I figure let's give him a few days just to go through the process and get familiar with the do's and don'ts, right? But we'll keep an eye on him.
They start good, but then a week later,
Speak inside the microphone, please.
yeah, they start good, but a week later they go down the drain. Yeah.
And so just to touch on what we went over last meeting, it's super important if you can, as soon as you see something that is, not following post orders, you can either email me or text me and just directly, and I don't care if it's 10 o'clock at night or on a Saturday or Sunday, I send it right over to the road captain. And with that information, the date and time, they can locate exactly who was there. And if it's immediate, they can go visit the person right then and there. And they could, kind of put some fire under them like, hey, I got a report that this is going on, So they are able to investigate it immediately and provide a response to us to let us know what's going on. So feel free. All of you should have my email. I'm sure I sent you like 1,000. So feel free to email me and we can stay on top of them.
Last meeting we had George Gonzalez, he gave me his phone and he's getting pretty busy with me,
He's been busy with you?
Oh, yes.
That's what that contract gets paid to do. All right. So by all means, I mean, the same way you guys would report right to us, that's my first stream. I'm going to go to the road captain before I have to go to either base of operations or if I need to go to any regional supervisors.
Like last Friday, I went through 79th Avenue. They don't have nobody at the guardhouse. They had a supervisor there. He just was on the phone, letting everybody goes in. I just took a picture and I sent it to him, he said he was gonna take care of, I don't know, you know.
And when that happens, feel free, if you feel there's not a checks and balance where you're reaching out to George and you have no word back, if you loop me or Christina in, we'll definitely be those individuals that'll follow up on it. Because that's what we're trying to curb. And the same thing from the top down. As you heard it from the president, they're not looking to uphold that level of service either. But they need to make sure that they are A, identifying the situations and the individuals, and B, if it's an issue of training, they're adding the additional training. We saw road captains out not too long after our last meeting, training some of these new faces for a little bit longer. So if it's a training aspect, they're going to go ahead and take care of it. And if it's an aspect of just poor performance, they also need to be able to measure that within their company.
We have a lot of problem on 168th Street, you know, that guardhouse is, whoever they put there is not doing the job, you know.
Christina, how do we, I see a direct number and an email, so we email you?
Testing. Yes, you can send me an email. If you call during work hours, Monday through Friday, between like 8 a.m. and 4 p.m., I'll likely get the call, or if you leave a message, but if you send an email, I'll get that one outside of work hours. So either on the weekend or after hours, I'll receive the emails directly to my phone.
Okay, but there is no problem with us contacting you and also copying the gentleman that Manny mentioned?
Which gentleman? Oh,
The road captain directly.
George Gonzalez, I'm gonna give you his number. I got his
Yeah,
number.
send me his number, because
And let
I
me tell
think
you,
it's,
he gets
yeah,
right involved
I think
right
it's
away.
a good idea doing both. So
Yeah.
Christina has a record of it, and we give this guy an opportunity as
I
well.
was just gonna say, that's great, because then we could always follow up and say,
Yeah.
hey, what was done after this? Great
Yeah.
idea.
He's
Lucas
very
Copeland.
good and friendly, you know.
So will you send everybody the captain's name so we could do both? We could send it to you and the captain at the same time?
Yes, I believe
Great.
there's two captains on schedule. It's either Rolando,
Very good.
yeah, A and B shift, so I could send it to everyone. I'll send it to the committee.
He answered you right back, right away, you know.
Manny, I guess on 168, there's only two things. Either we're getting the new guys that are coming in, or everybody that doesn't know how to drive lives on that side of 168.
I don't know what's wrong with,
It's all the northerners. They can't drive.
Because
I don't know what's wrong with that security.
the gate is always down, it's always broken. So,
Maybe the red was made in the United States, maybe that was made in China or something like that, because it's so we're broke. My wife goes there every day, it's Manny, you know, the guard is up. I says, what do you want me to do?
You got to see if she hits it. Maybe she's hitting it constantly.
I told him, don't bother me no more.
so anything else on SFM? So we all gonna get the captain's number, so we can reach out to him, and at the same time copy Christina, like that we can double check. So then let's move on to item number 6 on new business, CPIU, which has to do with SFM contract. So maybe Christina can enlighten us a little bit with what is it that they're looking for.
Okay, I should just leave it on so that it doesn't have to go through the situation of coming
With
back
the on
up
and off.
and not. Yes, so as you guys know, we have a contract with SFM, and they, per the contract, are able to request up to a 3% increase, as long as it's within this, before, I guess, the following budget year. So they have made the request of a 3% increase for this coming fiscal year. I know that some residents did say that, we're paying them minimum wage, so it's difficult to get good and retain good, guards working. So I don't know if you guys want to, discuss that and figure it out. They are requesting 3%. That it is the town's recommendation to go with at least a 1.5%. So I guess you guys, if you want to add anything, Jeremy?
Yeah, so just some factors to think about here is that this is the first time in their contract that they're requesting this increase. I mean, as we can assume, this is probably closely tied to everything going on with the labor force right now and maintaining and retaining some of their labor. So that CPI index, that consumer pricing index, is based off of labor rates for specific services and products. Their to date percentage is actually somewhere around 5% within that industry. However, as Christina alluded to, within the contract, our clause only allows them to go up to 3%. Within that, some items to consider is A, we have had some previous issues with the contractor. B, we, as Christina mentioned as well, we have heard from some of you guys that we are paying minimum wage. That's pretty much the level of service that we're receiving. And then C is that essentially we cannot go beyond a certain percent without actually going into our reserves. All right. So Royal Oaks East right now can only afford essentially just above a 2-point-something% increase without diving into their reserves. There's only $9,800 or so that's allocated right now to stay unallocated for any other projects that we have. Absorbing that 9,000 is going to be, I have to check with budget, but it was a roughly 2.4 number. So looking at some of the previous comments, looking at what we're seeing with some of our other contractors in the labor force, our recommendation would be potentially not to exceed that 1.5% increase, if that is something that the board even wants to consider. At the end of the day, this is an administrative decision, but we've, as always, been transparent with making sure that the advisory boards are the ones making our recommendations. So with that, the floor is pretty much open. If there's any questions, I mean, we're here to answer, but it's essentially, is this something that the board wants to consider, or go ahead and just deny moving forward?
Is this
Okay.
request based on a contract that is about to be renewed automatically?
It's annual. I mean, the contract doesn't go into its renewals until July, I believe. And they have to make this request annually. So 2 previous years, they haven't made the request
So the contract is up for renewal next July.
as of July.
If we were to decide to give them that increase, which, by the way, I would agree with that, right? Given the cost of living over the last 2 years, we've seen it increase, right? Who's to say that we're not going to be put up for another increase come July, right? That's my only concern. July comes around, we got to renew the contract, and then it's going to hit us with a higher rate.
So
I'm
for
pretty sure that they can renegotiate the contract.
No.
No.
So the terms under their contract for the first 3 years and the additional 2-year extensions are under the same rates.
Okay.
However, obviously that 1.5 increase would then set us up for next fiscal year around that same July time when we're getting ready for the next year. Once again, it'll be at that rate. And then if they request again an increase, that's going to be your discretion. But no, so we wouldn't renegotiate after the actual 3-year period before the renewals. It would remain the same rate.
That's my position. That's my comment. That's it.
Thank you, Will. When Christina and Jeremy, they reached out to me and we spoke about it. The standard rate is about 5% across the board. They're asking for 3%. Automatically, I said 3%. Most of us are not going to go for it because the way that they have been performing. But I think 1.5%, which is half of it, I think is fair. We're not saying no. And at least we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, and we're giving them a vote of confidence that we know that they're going to start doing better. And then when July comes, or next time around comes, maybe they deserve the 3%, and we will go for that. But my position at this point is to go ahead and go with the 1.5%. But I want to hear from everybody.
Is that a motion?
I'm still not doing that as a motion. I want to see everybody's opinion, or if they want to add anything to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just, the way I look at it, yeah, 3% is out of the question. I mean, there's no, that's not reasonable whatsoever. So it comes down to probably, I think, I didn't really look at anybody's body language or face saying that maybe we shouldn't, approve something. So then it comes down to how much. I'm glad, Jeremy, that you pointed out with Royal Oaks East that, the budget there is a little tighter than, section 1. So we have to keep that into consideration because whatever it is going to affect both. Okay, it's going to be the same percentage. Of course, it's going to affect East, it's going to impact a little bit more. So we just have to consider, how much are we willing to, go with, if anything at all, of course, because 0 is also on the table. And, like Omero said, it should be based on performance. And if we look at, the performance, every single time we have a meeting, pretty much we're talking about, the guards, this and that. There hasn't been one where everybody said, oh, everything's good. No, we haven't had one where everything is good, telling you're calling the captain. He probably cringes every time he sees your number. So that's what I'm thinking. Somewhere between 0 to 1.5, I think, would be the consideration. And, let's see how everybody else feels.
Going on that route, so you guys know, the current rate for security guard level 1, we're paying them $15.84. If we were to give them a raise of 3%, will be 48 cents. We'll bring them to $16.32. If we give them 1.5, it'll be only 24 cents on top of the 15.84. For security guard level 2, the current bill rate is 17.17. 3% will put them at 17.69. But if we give them only half of the difference, will be 26 cents on top of the 17.17. Same thing goes for the security guard supervisor. 17.17 current rate, 17.69 at 3%. But if we go 1.5%, will be only 26 cents more. And then the use of license motor vehicle roving guard is current rate is $1.50. If it goes up to 3%, $1.55. That will be 5 cents. Half of that will be 2.5 cents.
So we're looking between security level 1, level 2, and the supervisor. The average is about $0.25 per hour. Right?
Yeah.
Anything less than that
Between
is not,
24 and 26 cents.
anything less than that, it's unacceptable, quite frankly, and it's not going to help us with the morale.
Right. I think that if you give them the 1.5, it shows an element of good faith. But having said that, I think there should be a very simplified benchmark. Okay. Hey, we're not saying no in the future, but we feel that's got to be earned. So we'll give you 1.5 and we'll see how it goes. And the benchmark, I think, should be very simple. The expectation of taking a picture of a tag, that's very consistent. That's not everybody on that guard should know they have to do
Simple.
that. Following the protocol of the accident. So are we doing that as far as remember the protocol? Yeah. Okay, so the benchmark, we want that consistency. The picture of the tag, the accident protocol, so we can get reimbursed for all those damages, which are going to cut into our reserves if we don't do that. And we want the ability to select the guards, okay? Because one of the things that I think makes it difficult is when they keep changing guards, right? So when we know there's a good guard, we want to have that right to say,
Keep them.
hey, we want Dominic
Right.
there because he's familiar with the neighborhood. He knows who goes in, what have you. So if we tell him, look, we're going to give you half. Let's monitor, see how it goes in the future. It's a great opportunity for you to reinforce what you're doing. Your contract's coming up in July. And these are the 3 benchmarks: consistent taking of tags, accident protocol. And when we say we like this guard, to keep that guard. Like that guy Dominic that got promoted as a supervisor was great. There's a lady also on 169th, which, we take it for granted, but a smile and a wave goes a long way, right?
Yep.
And they start knowing they know when something's not right. So I think just saying 1.5, porque no jodas más, it's not good, but 1.5, and these are the benchmarks. And we're not saying that we're
It's
not gonna
only
review
fair.
it. Yeah.
And they can come back in July and they can ask again for another 3%.
Oh, no, I guarantee you they're gonna ask for, yeah.
And then hopefully between now and July, they'll
So they can
make a
challenge themselves to the
100%
benchmark.
turnaround.
Yeah, because I think if you, and look, you guys know what's happening with inflation, right? And with labor, so.
Yeah. Listen,
you
we
know,
all want them to
people-
succeed and we want to
We
give
want
them the
them to
tools to do.
succeed. It's
But
hard
they
to
gotta
make a
do their
living
part
in
too,
that.
you gotta earn it.
Exactly, and that's more on the management and not on those poor guards, because
Right.
quite frankly, we don't even know if the guards are getting an increase, so, but, we know what's happening with inflation as well, but there's gotta be a benchmark and. it's
Well,
gotta
actually,
be-
starting today, the minimum wage went up to $10 today. So, yeah, I think in everywhere. Or only, I think it was on September 21st, so that's today.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Barbie, Manny? So basically, on what George said, Will, Marco. 9:30, okay. Then the motion on the floor will be the following. Go ahead and increase their rate 1.5% based on these 3 benchmarks. The taking of the picture, number 1, the accident protocol,
Following the action. protocol.
and the ability to select the guards by the committee. And if we like the ones that they have them now, keep them. And if we got to replace them, we should have a saying as well. So that's the motion on the floor.
I second.
So Marco second that motion. If we're ready to take a vote on the motion, let's go ahead and take a vote. Will? Yes. Marcos?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Barbie? Manuel? Homero, yes.
Just to confirm one more time.
And Will?
Yes.
Yes. So motion passes. So they can get the 1.5% based on those 3 benchmarks. Okay. Anything else on new business? Manny had a question. Can we help them in the process of interviewing the guards? Or that's their protocol most likely?
That's gonna be an internal, and that's part of
Yeah.
their, of the way they run their operation.
Right.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Now, we can always provide feedback, immediate feedback, if there's anything we see,
But
but
the
as far
final
as the,
saying will be on them.
correct. Well, technically, the final say is with us. If
Right,
there's,
right.
if there's a guard that is consistently not following post orders, with 2 or 3 documentations of it, we can request the removal.
Can be removed immediately. Okay. Anything else on the new business?
So I'd like to discuss communication with the board, between the board and the town, right? It's been a couple of months, if not more, right? We've been seeing emails back and forth, and all of us are BCC. Right? We do understand the sunshine law. We don't.
I'm
want
sorry to interrupt. That's not an item currently on does the chair want to make a motion to
Yeah,
open
that's
up
right. You're
order
absolutely
of
right.
business?
Yeah, because it's not on the new business, but do that. We have a little bit of time left today. Definitely, we'll go ahead and if you
You
don't
can make a
mind,
motion to
I'm gonna
add it
make
to
a
new
motion
business.
to go ahead and discuss on the new business, the issue with the emails and the BCC. So go,
Second,
and who seconds the motion? Barbie seconds the motion. Everybody in favor, aye? Aye. Motion passes. You have the floor.
So we are all familiar with sunshine law, right?
Yes.
And the intent of my recommendation is not to violate in any way the law itself. We do understand that we're not supposed to discuss any topics related to our NSD committee outside a public meeting, right? I do want to propose that to facilitate communication when it comes to meeting attendance, submission of the minutes,
I did speak with her, well, I emailed her today, suggesting to send calendar invitations for the meetings. And maybe she could actually attach the minutes there. So as soon as it pops up in your calendar, you accept it. It'll be easier just to click it and be able to just have everything there, as opposed to searching for emails, because I know that everyone receives a lot of emails. So it kind of gets bustled. If you wouldn't have sent that email today, I would have not had this meeting on my radar whatsoever.
Testing. I can do that if you prefer. Quick show of hands, how many people actually responded to me in the email saying that you'll be present at today's meeting? So you see, so when I reach out to Homero, like, hey, I don't know if we have quorum, it's just because nobody responds. Like, if you responded, I would be able to report to the chair and say, I know these people are coming, because didn't I reach out to you today and say, Homero, we know these people are coming. I haven't heard from anybody else. So I could copy everybody, but I don't think that'll result in us not having to go a step further in text to see who's coming, because a lot of people don't always respond. I can moving forward, do the calendar invites. If you guys think that that'll be helpful, I can totally do that for the remaining meetings.
I think that would help, something extra. And then always, I will always make that phone call no matter what, the day before or the same day, just to make sure that we do meet quorum instead of having to come all the way here. I mean, just coming all the way from the Gables, you as well. And maybe that day in particular, we're doing something else and we cancel because we want to be here. Like Elsa is in Oregon, so she's not going to come from. So we're always going to have that little text. But sending that invite, I think it helps.
Yes, I can definitely do that. And then I don't know if you guys were able to take a look at the remaining meetings, how I kind of schedule them so that you already know every other month. It's the same Wednesday, the same time, if that works for everybody. And then we can discuss if we plan on doing the following meeting, and we could, keep the reminders in the same, just as we have.
No, definitely. And thank you for getting that time for us, because it's great for every one of us at 7:30. So I don't think we're going to have an issue with that. So we're doing good.
Wonderful.
So anything else? So then I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. It's 8:13. And I make a motion to go ahead and close this meeting for today.
Second.
Manny seconds the motion. Everybody in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned, so we can all go home.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. There we go.